All it takes is a can to prove time was a lie. Sunnyvale Rest Home, a porch of waiting bodies, a corridor of stalled time, a holding place for those who think aging is inevitable. Here the residents shuffle, sit and sigh, dressed up but going nowhere. Into this landscape of resignation steps Charlie Whitley, an old man who refuses to believe in endings. His friend Ben Conroy calls him crazy, but Charlie has touched on something radical. Youth is not lost in years, it is lost in thought. For Charlie, kick the can is not just a game, it is a living sacrament, a ritual of presence. Children don't age because they are constantly anchored in now. The moment they stop playing, the moment they identify with time, the body begins its march toward decline. Charlie sees this, and he knows that to play again is not to regress. It is to return to innocence, which is eternal. Ben, meanwhile, represents the voice of the ego. He insists everyone grows up, everyone gets old. He clings to the logic of bones and lungs, projecting frailty onto Charlie to reinforce his own. He mistakes realism for cynicism, and cynicism for wisdom. But what he calls wisdom is nothing but belief in death dressed up as common sense. When Charlie invites him to play, Ben recoils, not because he doesn't long for renewal, but because he is terrified of looking foolish, terrified of being wrong about what life is. He prefers despair he can predict to joy he cannot control. This is the central conflict. Charlie whispers the Holy Spirit's reminder that the fountain of youth is not a fountain but a way of looking. Ben insists on the ego's creed. Time is real, decay is certain, hope is madness. Each resident must choose which voice to follow. Charlie chooses miracle. Ben chooses judgment. Notice the symbol of the can itself. A discarded, empty object, worthless in the world's eyes, yet it holds the key to liberation. In A Course in Miracles, the world itself is a discarded can, empty of meaning except what the mind gives it. To kick the can is to refuse to let meaning stagnate. It is to laugh at the ego's seriousness, to reclaim the present, to run toward freedom without apology. That's why Charlie says, "Doesn't it wake some sleeping part of you?" The game is forgiveness in motion. One kick and all the prisoners go free. The escape plan even mirrors salvation. The firecracker is the spark of willingness, the distraction that lets the mind slip past the guard of ego authority. The residents sneak into the night, not to die, but to be reborn. When Mr. Cox arrives with Ben to shut down the rebellion, it's too late. The porch of decline has become a playground. The old bodies are gone, replaced with children running, laughing, calling "Ollie, Ollie, oxen free," a perfect metaphor for the Christ call. All are free, come home now. And yet Ben stands apart, clutching the can. He wanted proof before he would believe, but miracle always requires belief first, sight second. In his demand for certainty, he traded certainty for sorrow. The children do not recognize him, because he chose to forget himself. He sits alone, holding the can, looking for those who will never return, because they never left. From A Course in Miracles lens, kick the can is not about literal transformation of age. It is about the choice between two teachers. Charlie listens to the voice for life, which says, "You are not a body, you are free." Ben listens to the voice of death, which says, "You are time-bound, and nothing can change that." Both voices are in the mind of every viewer. And the episode asks, which will you follow? The miracle is never complicated. The miracle is willingness to play again, to forgive the seriousness of the ego's rules, to remember that innocence is untouched by the years. The final tragedy is not that Ben remains old, it's that he chose against joy. He chose to be right about death instead of wrong about life. Charlie's game was an invitation to remember eternity. Ben declined, and so he sits outside the circle of play, alone, in self-chosen exile. Maybe you've got to be a little crazy to make the magic work, Charlie says. Or, as the Course would phrase it, you must be out of your wrong mind to enter your right one. To the ego, forgiveness always looks insane. But in the light of Christ, insanity is clinging to age and death when freedom is as simple as kicking a can across the lawn. Sunnyvale Rest Home, where the old sit waiting for death, unaware that life still waits for them. One man remembered the fragile magic of youth, and in a moment of play, he found eternity. Another man chose fear, and so he aged 1,000 years in an instant. For in the Twilight Zone, all it takes is a can to prove time was a lie.